Welcome back to Black News Tonight. Corporate America has long-time problems of lacking diversity. One example is the popular Fortune 500 list. So if you review all of the publications since 1955, among all of the 1,800 CEOs featured, only 19 were black. Now, with that in mind, our next guests, Dr. Randal D. Pinkett and Dr. Jeffrey A. Robinson, are launching a new book, a guide that helps black executives in the right direction. So it's set to be released on February the 8th. Black Faces in High Places, 10 strategic actions for black professionals to reach the top and stay there. That's the important part, stay there. It provides insight and information on how to become leaders while navigating the corporate world. So here to talk about all of this are our guests. Thank you so much, Randal and Jeffrey, for joining us to talk about this new book. It sounds amazing. So Dr. Pinkett, I want to start with you. Talk to us about what information that you're giving to black professionals in this book and how they can actually learn how to get to these top positions, but also how to remain successful. Why is this so important?
Well, thanks for having us on the program. We greatly appreciate it. And this book is a follow-up to our 2010 book, Black Faces in White Places, where we talked about how to get to the top. But to the point you made a moment ago, what distinguishes this book is how do you stay there? And what we've learned, and as others know, is it's a different set of challenges to climb to the top than it is the challenges you experience once you've arrived at the top. And what we sought out to do was to understand what are those distinguishing strategies for black professionals once they find themselves in leadership, in the C-suite, as executive directors of nonprofits, as leaders of school districts, even elected officials. What have they been able to do in order to pivot from overcoming challenges to get there versus addressing the challenges to stay there? And among the many messages from the book is really around how do you find strength in numbers? And because there's so few of us, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, that we have to make these critical connections to others who've been there, who've walked these same paths, who can instill and really invest in you so that you're not making the mistakes that others have already learned from. And that's one of the key messages from the book.
And speaking of those critical connections, Dr. Robinson, you interviewed amazing professionals for this book, such as President Barack Obama, the First Lady Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, and Ursula Burns, who is huge in the Fortune 500 world, just to name a few. So what are some of the gems that they shared with your readers?
Well, we did interview a lot of folks. Some of those folks you said we didn't interview them, but we did have a chance to understand where they were coming from. They gave us insights into what it takes to be there. And they told us stories. We were able to look at some of the stories of, the folks like Ken Chenault. We interviewed Bob Johnson and Kathy Hughes and others. And they just gave us some of those nuggets. Some of those nuggets we distilled into 10 strategic actions that range from understanding who you are as an individual all the way to finding synergy with others, what kinds of mentors and networks you need to have. And, frankly, when we looked at some of those ideas, those insights that they gave us, we started to think about other things we could even add to it to make it actionable for people who were going to read the book.
And Randal, you talk about these 10 steps. One of the topics that you address in your book is thinking as an entrepreneur. So why is it so important to have this skill set, especially when you're in the corporate world? A lot of people think I've just got to climb the corporate ladder. They're not thinking as an entrepreneur would. So why is that important?
Yeah, we know over the course of the last 20, 30 years that this idea of being your own brand has emerged. And with social media and with all of the ways that we market ourselves and maintain competitiveness, it's not about necessarily how you just represent your organization, but how you build your own brand. And it is the mindset of an entrepreneur that thinks about market positioning, thinks about competitiveness, thinks about innovation and creativity. We take that same mindset in the book, and we certainly apply it for those aspiring entrepreneurs. But we also introduce this idea of an intrapreneur, someone who thinks the way entrepreneurs think as they navigate an established organization. And that gets back to all of what an entrepreneur would do of branding, marketing, strategy, innovation, creativity, vision, and passion as a way of bringing your best self to each and every opportunity and allowing that to be the guiding compass for how you manage your career. We often say in the book that what Earl Graves said that your career is your own private business.
That's a good one. I like that. I'm a big fan of Earl G. Graves. And Jeffrey, I got to ask you, what would you say is your favorite strategic action in the book and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd say that one of my favorites is the chapter on networks because it lays the foundation for almost everything else we talk about in the book. You've got to understand who's in your network. You've got to understand what kind of network you have. You need to think about who you are going to be the next layer in the network that you're trying to be strategic in. So networking is important. And it's not just networks for networking's sake. It's networking so that you can gain power. And power is so essential. As you move up in an organization, what people often realize is it's not just the tasks that are important, it's the relationships. But how do you navigate those relationships without having great and strategic networks? So it's got to be that chapter for me.
And I also love the mentoring aspect that you talk about in the book, because I think a lot of people forget that on both ends of mentoring and being a mentee. Can you talk to us about that importance, Randal, and how that can help people get to that next tier?
Yeah, one of the bodies of work that we looked at for the book is the work of David Thomas, who was a scholar at Harvard. Now many know him as president of Morehouse College. And he compared in some of his work, which we cited in the book, comparing minorities who become executives, blacks who become executives, and those who plateau in their careers, who reach a wall, hit that proverbial glass ceiling. And when you compare the two groups, what you find is that those who become executives have significantly more mentoring relationships, sponsoring relationships, but also look at the diversity of those relationships, that those who plateaued tend to have very monolithic, single demographics, either all white or all black mentoring networks, whereas those who made it to the top tended to have very heterogeneous networks that were both black and white, very diverse in their composition. And so neither an all-black nor an all-white network served either community well. But when you have those diverse networks in your relationships, in your mentorships, in your sponsorships, you ultimately have a higher likelihood of making it to the top and staying there.
And I want people to make sure you get the book, because there is a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. So make sure you check that out. But Randal, I got to ask you too, a lot of people know you from that hit TV show, The Apprentice. I don't know if you're tired of talking about it at this point, but you did work as the first and only black winner of the show in all of its seasons. You had the opportunity to work under Donald Trump and work for his business for a year. What do you think are some of the things you learned about him as well as business from that experience?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question, because what I learned is what the world eventually learned. I just saw it first, or saw it earlier. And I did a press conference, as some will recall, when Donald announced his candidacy, to say to the world, I've seen this man behind closed doors. He is dangerous. Now, my megaphone clearly wasn't loud enough in order for those to listen to what I had to say. But I'm proud to say that I was on record once I drew the connection between the man on the show and the man who desired and sadly ended up becoming president. And now we're on careful watch once again for 2024, because from where I sit, all the signs and all the writing on the wall is that he's running again. And so all these conversations that you've been having on the Black News Network around voting rights and around how we empower ourselves for our voices to be heard at the ballot box, those conversations are critically important.
Yeah, so important. We should have saw the writing on the wall when he asked you to share your winning position too. We're like, why you gotta share? You didn't ask nobody else to share, but I digress. We'll keep it moving. Because Jeffrey, I gotta ask you too. I know a part of this whole topic that we've been talking about, I know that you have been quoted saying this, that to increase workplace diversity, you also need to increase the diversity of facilities in higher education. So how do you see that as an integral part into creating these future CEOs that are people of color as well? And is that being done, or what steps can we take to make changes in those universities?
Oh, yes, it's vital. Because if the front of the classroom is diverse, then we can change what's happening in the classroom. And it goes back to the whole access to not just the education as an undergraduate student, but also to graduate schools, and then thinking about who's applying for the doctoral programs to become those professors who are in front of the front of the classroom. There's a great program which I was part of called the PhD project, and it's designed to do just some of the things I talked about in a business school setting. And I'm sure there are other initiatives in the STEM fields to try to get more people of color, and particularly Black people, to go for those doctorates, to be prepared to get through the process, to come out the other side, to be those Black faces in high places in higher education, so that they could be in the classroom, in the administration, and really making an impact on the students of the future. So it all has to come together. I've been one of the beneficiaries of that, and now I'm on the side of the in front of the classroom and trying to make an impact in that way.
Well, we hope you both continue to make an impact on this world. And if you want to impact in your career, make sure you check out their book. It will definitely help you and make an impact in your career. Dr. Pinkett and Dr. Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget that book comes out February the 8th, wherever books are sold.